So thank you for giving me the stage. I'm delighted to be here. So as Iris mentioned, I work for a company called IR. IR is a tech company in North Sydney, and I've been there for about 3.5 years. So at the moment, I look after sales enablement globally, but I am currently seconded into a different position, so I only do about 10 or 15% of my time on sales enablement right now. But I have been doing, up until about 3 months ago, I was doing it for kind of the year and a half leading up to that. So that's really what I wanted to chat to you here today about. Really some of the initiatives that we took on and we decided to tackle. My background previous to that is digital marketing and specifically content marketing. So when I joined our company, I was looking after our content, and then we decided that we needed to tackle sales enablement because we were really strong, I would say, on doing content and really talking to our customers and all this outward facing stuff. Where we weren't so good was the internal communication of it and really doing the translation between all of this marketing content to our sellers. So that's really where it came about. And the title is around a web because really when I'll go through some of the elements that where we started off with, because there was nobody in the role previously. You're just establishing it. And I know a couple of people have been talking about establishing the function. You have to start really at a central place, and then you need to grow it from there and keep it going really. So where do you start with? I'm not sure which to press on this, but So what I'd like to talk through is starting off with listening to your people and gaining that insight. And then I'm going to talk about that central place of where that kind of started for us. Some quick wins, and I'll hone in on one in particular because I think it's quite a practical one that lots of people can take up relatively quickly, and it's been massively effective in our organization. Then I'm going to tackle some of the big beasts, and I want to finish off by trying to decide on what not to take on, because there's so many things that you can, that it's really good to decide to kind of take time every couple of months to say, right, okay, what are we not going to take on? These are the quests coming through. So let's get started with listening. So listening was a really important point for us. When we started off, we kind of had this idea, of the areas that we wanted to tackle, some projects. But we really needed to get buy-in from our audience to see, okay, I want to tackle this, but in order for it to be successful, we need people bought in and we need them to adopt it. And if they're not bought in at the start, it's going to be a failure down the line. The other part of it was as well, it's all well and good if you're sitting in a marketing department in the global head office where we don't have that many salespeople, if you have all these grand ideas, but we needed to validate them and also identify, potentially there are other things, maybe we're better off putting our effort in other places. So when we went around, and it was brought up earlier, the importance of doing those discovery interviews, it had a lot of benefit. It had benefit right at the start. It had benefit 6 months down the line, and it has benefit still today. So what we embarked on right at the beginning was I took a full month to actually travel to all our offices and sit down with people face to face and take a full hour with individuals. So we have offices in the US and Europe and in Singapore, and having that face-to-face time with people and actually getting to know them, because it wasn't just, we did have a list of questions, but actually getting to know them as a person was really important. Because what you see up here is right down at the bottom, that trust element was it's really key if you want to be successful in what you're doing, because you need people to know you well enough. So if you're going down the wrong path, they'll tap you on the shoulder and say, no, you've got that wrong, or you completely missed a gap on that one, etc., etc. And what I found in that time, it was great because, first of all, when you talk to people, they do kind of get things off their chest. So you really get the raw edge of their frustration. And after a couple of interviews, maybe 10 or 20, you start to hear the same responses again and again. So it's very clear then where your main focus points should be. What's the low-hanging fruit that's really going to make an impact early on? And also, I found in that exercise of taking that time out for the first month, it wasn't just learning for myself and for, let's say, my boss. It was also really good learning from, because you share it back into the organization, because some of the things that brought up were not things that I really had the power to change or affect. There's only a certain amount that you can do in your function. And then there are other things that you get the opportunity to really share elsewhere, and other people can action those, or they can decide not to. But once you have it on, hey, 60 people have actually complained about this, or 50 people, or 10 people, and if it's only 10 people, but if it's your 10 top sellers, and they've all said this is a particular thing that's really grinding us. And if you hand that to a sales leader and they solve that problem, they're just going to be such a hero of it. So it's kind of like, it was a good way of bridging that gap between the sales leaders as well, because they appreciated that feedback. And then down the line, when things came up in that initial phase that we couldn't tackle early on, but we were able to tackle maybe 6 months later. We were able to revert back to this and say, I remember 6 months ago when we talked to everybody, they said X, Y, and Z. And we had that evidence there that we gained from the field. So really valuable exercise in getting to know your people and listening to what they have to say. So that kind of kick-started us. So if you do go down that, make sure that you share your learnings back with the rest of the organization in a meaningful way, and not one that's, well, I guess you sometimes you might want to use it as landmines if you want to cause a few. I guess if it's something that's really painful for your sellers, it's a good opportunity to rise that to the surface. So a central place. So when we think about, this has come up over numerous speeches the last 2 days, which is great. It really is the starting place. It was for us that sits at the center of our web, having a central place and for all your sales assets. Now, when you think about your central place for everything, for us, it's a sales portal. The first question is, are we going to build this from scratch? Are we going to, because if you've nothing in place, you might need to build it from scratch. Are we going to leverage existing technology, or are we going to rip and replace it? And it's a big decision. And for us, we decided to leverage what we had, because we actually had a good underlying technology it's not perfect, but we were on a deadline to get out something to really get it going in the initial stages. So when you only have a certain amount of time, and in particular, if it's kind of more of a skunkworks kind of project, leveraging can be really helpful, and you can get something quite helpful off the ground relatively quickly, I would say. So what we did was we actually had, like most organizations, we had a global asset library, and we uploaded our assets, and this was our usual process. And the question was like, well, we already have the information there. What do we need to do with it? And we really needed to give it a facelift, because even though we had everything tagged, we didn't have it presented in a nice visual way, in a way that was user friendly. What the salespeople had to do to find what they were looking for is they had to use filters. So they had to click, let's say we have 20 columns, they have to click on their filters and they get to what they're looking for. And filtering, what I found out was some people didn't even know that they could filter on our existing library. So we just presented the information, we presented it in a more visual way, and this is a screenshot. It's not overly complicated, it's pretty simple. And we have these buckets of where the main filters, our main areas. So for IR, I probably didn't give a a really good overview on IR, but we sell to two main markets. One is unified communications and the other one is the payments space. And it's enterprise software that we sell. So a lot of our, most of our sellers are very experienced and they've been selling software for a long, long time. So I guess in that way, it's really important to kind of have things separated out, I guess. And specifically around, we might be selling, so some of our sellers might be, their focus area might be just selling for Cisco, really, for selling the performance management. They're really strong on Cisco. So just having that on one place, on one page, it's on the homepage, click on this button, go in here, boom, that's all my Cisco stuff. I don't need to go anywhere else. If they search in a different way, they can go to their search box and search up there, that's okay too. If they search via, I think you can probably see, it's this one. So this part here, the image is a little bit small, but it just represents another way of searching, which is by the buyer journey stages. So, which is quite helpful for new sellers to the organization. So whether they go to, let's say they're looking for a Cisco case study, which they might be, they can go to the Cisco page, they can go to probably the discovery page, or they can type in Cisco case study up here, or on the side menu, we have a page for for case studies as well. So whatever way they want to learn, they can find it in 1 or 2 clicks. That was really the objective. Find what you're looking for in 1 or 2 clicks. And what was funny was, because we had this already in place, I didn't think that was going to be a big win or anything. I just kind of thought, oh yeah, we'll put this in and that'll be good. This solved so many problems. It was unbelievable. And it was such a simple fix. And it just meant that for sales managers, what had been happening was when an email came out with a new asset, they would download the asset and then they'd put it into their team site, and then it would sit there for like 3 years, despite the marketing team updating it every few months and thinking, oh, it's great. But they were always working on the older ones. Now, our sales managers just send people to Hyper. This is what we've called the sales portal, high performance, Hyper. So, and it's great because that saves them time, and then they know they can direct their team there, and they know how to work it as well. It's easy to use and easy to explain, so it doesn't take a half an hour to explain how to work it. You're like, Cisco stuff, Cisco page, okay, easy. So that was quite a kind of early on something that was a good win. And as time has went on, the value in this grows over time, because when we have new things that come up here, the first place people know to go to is the This Week section, which is on the homepage, because it's going to be up there if it's brand new. So, and every time there's, whether it's a new product or whether it's a new video or a new asset, they know that, oh, have you checked Hyper? Right. So as it grows on over time, it's really helpful. So, and I'll probably come back to this because it kind of weaves into a lot of the other things that we build throughout, because everything gets placed in here and then we move from there. So, quick wins. So for us, a key complaint that we got a lot of was that the communication is poor, and or it's infrequent, or I guess there was inconsistencies in the communication in our organization. So we had a lot of managers, and from a corporate perspective, and then in the regions as well, trying their best to really communicate. And the feedback was, well, it's not good enough, and we don't understand it, or we forget it, and everything's like sitting in inboxes. So we didn't, again, something that we kind of hit upon that we didn't think was, we said we just try it, right? We'll trial this communication that happens once a week, that's a 2-minute video that will just cover everything that's happening in the organization in the last week. Because I don't know if it's happened with you guys when people say, oh, it would have been great if I knew about that. Like, why didn't you tell us? So we did hear this a good few times. So what this 2-minute little video update does is it reminds them, okay, you saw this email that came out from the CEO. This is what it meant, X, Y, and Z, or here's the important line that you need to focus on, or that you can talk to your customers about. Or yeah, the product team came out with this statement. What does it really mean? And the marketing team came out with this ebook, and they give the marketing spiel on it. From a sales perspective, we'll tip it on its head. And if because you know the way, let's say in particular for thought leadership content, from a marketing perspective, you might have the order of importance for certain points. But if you're a sales guy, actually the third or fourth bullet point might be the one that's most interesting to you. So what we do in these videos is so what we do in these videos is we take what's coming out from the other departments, and we put the sales lens on it so that they can understand it and so that they can get value from it. So I guess I have some kind of some typical things that end up in it, like most weeks. So if there's any product launches, sales assets, translating to corporate messages or how-tos. So sometimes we do things like hacks. So like a little PowerPoint hack or a little hack for doing something faster. So if we think of when these come out, like if these videos come out every week, we have one example we were doing a little bit of a rebrand, brand evolution. And one of the assets that we wanted our salespeople to do was we needed them to stop using the old PowerPoint template and use the new one. So this is the new one, this template. But they had been using the old one for like 3 or 4 years, and it had been embedded probably in 20 of their different PowerPoints. And that small thing is actually a ginormous effort to get every one of your salespeople to switch over. And like they're probably thinking in their mind, that's time I don't have. So what we did here then is we kind of figure out, right, we want to reinforce the message every week for about 3 or 4 weeks, if not more, or maybe every second week for 2 months. So you need to have, what we try to think of is like, what's interesting about the brand? Like, are there 5 interesting things about this new PowerPoint template? And let's focus a different thing on those weekly updates. So one week we did a PowerPoint hack, which was, we said, how do you save your brand template as your default PowerPoint? And I just showed how to do that on this weekly update. So you can see here that it's a screen share on the video, and then you have my face in the corner. And on the screen share is really showing them, that's the how-to. And because they can see my face every week, they all think that they know me really, really well, but I only see them once a year. But anytime I see the salespeople, they're like, oh, Anna, it's great to see you. And it's usually not, like sometimes I haven't met people at all, but they feel like they know me because I'm in their inbox once a week, talking to them for 2 minutes and being like, hey, this is cool. And I'm like showing them exactly, something that they can actually use. And then once you're doing it 3 or 4 times and that thing of this little small helpful thing, then they're, oh, that's cool. And then they actually get adoption for it. So that kind of consistent communication has really helped us grow our trust with them. So let me see. So hopefully that's one that people can do easily. So the big beasts, and I'm not going to go into these into too much detail because we have I guess a lot of people have touched on these as well. So onboarding at a distance. For many of you, I would guess that you have to onboard people and they're far away. And how do you do that? For us, we had our HR department who look after our onboarding. But then there's when it comes to sales enablement, I guess, you kind of want to have your input into onboarding as well, even if you don't have ownership over it. So for us, the way we do it is when we have a new hire, we don't wait a week or 3 weeks to reach out. I have a little thing, you know the way you can do like your signature? I just have a signature there, new hires, send it out. It's in their inbox on their first or second day that they arrive, and then schedule a time with them in the first week that they arrive. But in that opening, like, welcome message, it's a link to, here's how to use our sales portal. It's a 10-minute video. You're really going to love it. Here's last week's video, and here's one other asset. When we do get to chat on the phone, it'd be great if you had a look at these in advance. And then in that way, when you do actually have that half an hour or that hour with them, they've already gotten to know you a little bit, and you've already pointed them to the onboarding page. And if they're good salespeople, they will have watched some of the videos. So it's and if they haven't watched them, it's a good one, because you can kind of, you can have a bit of a laugh with them, and you can grow that connection with them early on from the first week or two. Go back to, I won't touch on training, but maybe economic justifications are a really interesting one. This is a specific toolkit that we developed because when you're doing enterprise selling, obviously numbers is a big thing, and you need your sellers to be confident when they're talking about numbers and when they're talking about, I guess, if they're trying to talk about discounting or savings, etc., like that. What we found was we had this old ROI calculator, and it was like the go-to, but only really the advanced sellers were comfortable with it. So we developed a toolkit that broke it down. The ROI is over here. You have your savings in the middle, and your first part is actually establishing the cost of current operations for a prospect. But when we had it broken down, it meant that the really advanced sellers could go all the way in through the training and get all the way to the ROI, and they had all the things that they needed. But for the new sellers, they could pick it up and understand the concept, because some of the things around the comfort in talking about pricing and ROI, etc., that developing that comfort was really key in the first 15 minutes of the setup. Why it's important, why you might want to do an economic justification, what it means, comparing it to like real life examples of like buying, something in the sales and then justifying it in your mind, etc. So that setup meant that for the newbies, the starter pack was there from then, and then as they advanced more into it, they knew that there was something for the more advanced sellers. So I think I only have 2 minutes left. So I'm going to go on to my last slide, which is not too much on it, but it's really about deciding what not to take on, because it's important. Most of us here, from what I've gathered anyway, have come from a different background. You don't go to uni and study sales enablement. So for the starting point for us was really like, I come from a marketing background. Let's utilize, let's say, the skill set and the background that I have, so we can actually deliver something of value to our sales pretty fast, and then grow on that and be consistent. That meant that there were certain things that we couldn't take on, because it's like, this is something that could be really helpful for the organization. Are we going to do it justice right now, or do we need more resources? And one of those issues for us was our CRM. Because I'm not an expert in our CRM, I could have taken it on, and I could have spent 1.5 years working blood, sweat and tears, not have been effective at it. What happened there was, we said, we're not going to take it on. In actual fact, we're going to bring on a sales operations person. So that person has come on board, and they're taking it on. But it's really important to really think strong and hard about what you're going to take on and what you're not going to take on, because you're only going to be successful if you have a laser focus. And I think I will end it there, or take questions.
Any questions for Anna?
Easy.
No? Okay, cool. Yes? We've got one from Kelly.
Yes, thank you. What was your central platform? That looked like it was sitting on SharePoint. Was it just in-house, or were you using a tool?
Yeah, it's just SharePoint. And what we did at the time, we were using like an older version of SharePoint Classic.
Yeah.
And then we moved to SharePoint
I know.
Modern for that particular part. And what we did, we got an agency to help us. Like we didn't spend a huge amount. We worked with them for a month, and they kind of did the heavy lifting in terms of the implementation. And now I just manage it day to day.
And your videos sat within that version of SharePoint. You're talking about your weekly updates, yeah.
Yeah, they sit there. So every week that we have a new one, it's because SharePoint is part of Office 365. Throughout our sales portal, we bring in other Office 365 tools. So the videos are actually hosted on Microsoft Stream, which if you use Microsoft Teams and you record your calls, they go automatically to Microsoft Stream. We bring in other Office 365 tools like Yammer, etc. Anything else that we're using, we bring it into Hyper, so you're kind of leveraging what you have.
Great. Any more questions? All right, no worries. Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you.
Now for